Divine Constitution of Moorish America. The Grand Sheikh and the Chairman of Moorish America are empowered to make law and enforce laws with the assistance of the Prophet and the Grand Body of Moorish America. The Assistant Grand Sheikh is to assist the Grand Sheikh in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and it is known before the citizens of Moorish America. All meetings are to be opened and closed promptly according to the Circle 7. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest because on a Friday, the first man was formed in flesh. And on a Friday, the first man departed out of flesh and ascended into his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is the holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all citizens of Moorish America. No citizen is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. All citizens must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all citizens must obey the laws of the government, because by being Moorish American, you are part and parcel of the government and must live the life accordingly. No organization of Moorish America is to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey here thereby. With us, all citizens must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folk, Black people, Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live in the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Jew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. All citizens must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and parcel of all uplifting acts of Moorish America. Moorish Americans must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of Moorish America, and then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and take after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become a part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Jew Ali, through the guidance of his Father God Allah, Islam. To be proclaimed in every meeting from the prophet. I'm glad to know I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There is a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation that claim it was only a joke and unreal. But now, since they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend on for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme they can to disqualify me so they themselves can take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that contribute to the movement and uplifting funds. The ones that pay their divine respect to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I'm calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance and I need it bad. Never before have I needed finance as badly as I do at present, that I may shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without me, the prophet, being the head. It has been proven by my works in which I have performed in the past, or in the past few months, because I was at the governor's inauguration to represent the Moorish Divine and National Movement, and I will be at the inauguration of President Hoover for the same. Noble Jew Ali, Islam. Okay, okay, that one more person. Yeah. All right, so I just wanted to cover, I know we all in different territories. Let's see, you're in Maryland. You're at Maryland, Universal Bay. So I know you got the book and things of that nature. So I wanted to cover an aspect of the manual. Um, this will be, I'm pretty sure you've seen this inside the book, right? Universal Bay. All right. So that's the consular notification and access manual. And I wanted just to emphasize what this manual is about. And once again, it's a repetition, but just to keep it in front of your mind. So of course, this manual is dealing with how officers, whether they be federal, state, local law enforcement, how they interface with foreign nationals or non-US citizens, right? So before we go into this manual, I'm going to show you something from what they call the California Penal Code, which is not law, but it's a way to slow walk them to that manual, which I'm gonna go back to. So in your municipal state, Virginia, you will want to find something in their codes, or yeah, pretty much their codes that say something similar. Every municipality has, like, so in your case, it'll be Virginia Penal Code. You'll find whatever, you'll kind of search and see something that'll take them to the manual I just showed you. So for example, for California, that's where we're at. California Penal Code, Section 834C talks about, in accordance with federal law and the provisions of this section, every peace officer, upon arrest and booking or detention for more than 2 hours of a known suspected foreign national, shall advise the foreign national that he or she has right to communicate with an official from the consulate of his or her country, if the foreign national chooses to exercise that right. All right, so this is what you'll use to take them to this manual. Now, once again, you'll have to find that in the Virginia Penal Code. And the reason I'm using this route is because most, when you have a nationality card and you're utilizing that when you're traveling, you want to put it in perspective that, you're a foreign national. And like I say, in California, this will be the one we use to slow walk them to this manual, right? So you would need to find that in Virginia for your case, at Virginia. And if you have trouble doing that, we can, find, we'll work it out this week or something, a couple of days, figure out what exactly that is. But you can Google what are foreign national penal codes for Virginia and just see, kind of just navigate. But we'll narrow it down if you have an issue or whatever. But essentially, you want to, since these officers are so stuck on penal codes, that you want to just show them in their stuff what directs them to this manual. And this ultimately directs them to the treaties, right? So now once we get to this manual, and once again, this is repetition because it's in the book. So this manual is designed to help ensure that foreign governments can extend appropriate consular services to their nationals, which that would be us, the Moors, in the United States, and that the United States complies with its legal obligations. These legal obligations arise primarily from treaties, which form the supreme law of the land under Article 6 of the Constitution. So that's the space that we want to keep them in when they're dealing with us. And I'm pretty sure everybody's familiar with Article 6 is talking about. But if not, we'll just take a look at it right now. All right. So all debts contracted, engagements entered into before the adoption of this Constitution shall be valid against the United States under this Constitution as under the Confederation. And we'll look at the Articles of Confederation in a little bit as well, because that's a pre-existing contract. So this Constitution and the laws of the United States shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made. So see how that manual takes them to the treaty aspect. All right. So let's go to the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. Since we know that the treaty is a binding contract. Treaty of Peace and Friendship. All right, so this will be the document that ultimately that we're enforcing. But you see the channels. You see, we went through, and since we in Cali, so we went through the California Penal Code 834C to take them to the manual, and then the manual takes them to the treaty. Because remember, we got nationality cards, so we want to be competent on our mode of operation. That's why I call it the book of flow chart, because essentially it's just you want to organize your mind. All right. So now, of course, when we get to the treaty, it's self-explanatory. We got two separate nations of people. As you see, we got Moors and we got U.S. citizens. Diversity of citizenship. All right. So I would advise everyone to just have a copy of the actual treaty and study it. For example, Article 4, when you have a flag or, a flag on your bumper sticker, a flag waving on your car, anything of that nature, you're invoking Article 4. What does Article 4 of the treaty say? A signal or pass. So when you have a flag on your conveyance, that's a signal or pass shall be given to all vessels belonging to both parties. So that's in the treaty, by which they are known when they meet at sea. And if the commander of a ship of war, either party, may have other ships under his convoy, the declaration of the commander. So that's where we're, the declaration of our nationality. When they're saying a vessel, it doesn't have to necessarily be a ship. A vessel is a conveyance on wheels, anything that takes you to point A to point B. If you're the commander of your conveyance, the declaration of the commander shall alone be sufficient to exempt any from examination. So, have a Moroccan flag on your conveyance. Your ID and your competence. Don't just rely on the ID, but they go both. Your competence and the ID is the declaration of the commander, because you're saying you're a Moor. So, Article 4, flag up your conveyance, and that's the signal or pass. And once again, if there's no treaty violation, then there's no violation. All right. So as you can see, Moor, United States citizen, two separate citizenships. And then, of course, Article 20 and 21, we'll be dealing with any type of disputes with any U.S. citizen or any Moors. Article 20, if any of the citizens of the United States or any persons under their protection shall have any disputes with each other, the council shall decide between the parties. So the council will be the ambassador or any type of representative of the state body or organization to say, has there been any violation? Has there been any treaty violation? Right, that's the whole purpose. So the council shall decide between the parties. And whenever the council shall require any aid or assistance from our government to enforce his decision, it shall be immediately granted to him. So we got councils, In this time of the treaty, the consuls for the United States was, of course, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, Thomas Barclay. But in our case, it's any council or head official of any nation state, body politic, temple. And then they'll go through the measure, like pursuant to the treaty, has there been any violation? So Article 21, if any citizen of the United States shall kill or wound a Moor, or on the contrary, if a Moor shall kill or wound a citizen of the United States, the law of the country shall take place. Now, this is the law. When they say law of the country, even though we know America is a continent, the treaty is the law of the land. So when we saying the municipal officers saying, oh, whoop-de-whoop did something wrong, and we know it's no injured party, we know what the treaty saying, we'll have somebody competent pull up to the venue, write a writ, express our position as Moors, right? That's the law of the country shall take place, and equal justice shall be rendered. The counsel assisting at the trial, and if any delinquent shall make his escape, the counsel shall not be answerable for him in any manner. So that's just like, we go on to court, and then the person that is saying, the person that the corporate state is saying did something wrong, if they flee or something or whatever, in the middle of the proceedings, that's not the counsel's fault. That's all that's saying. Any questions on that part? All right. So anybody with, let me see, nationality cards. And this is review, but you just want to have it locked in your mind. It's a Criminal Resource Manual 1508. Once again, this is also in the book. So this takes you to the Department of State. So now the manual was the Department of, this is Department of Justice. So the blue manual, the Consular Notification and Access Manual, is dealing with the Department of State. This is dealing with the Department of Justice, right? And we're talking about nationality cards. So this corresponds to Title 18, United States Code, Section 1028, dealing with specially mentioned identification documents. Section 1028 of Title 28 designates 3 special non-federal identification documents and gives them preferred treatment. These 3 documents in absence of a national identity card. So I have my nationality card. Most people on here have a nationality card. So if you don't have that, then the prime means by which an individual establishes his identity are the birth certificate, driver's license, and personal identification card. But of course, if you have it, then you don't need these, right? That makes sense. Pretty simple. All right. So you want to print, well, like I say, this is in the book, but you want to, also have it printed out handy in your glove compartment. So a birth certificate is not intended in 18 United States Code, Section 1028, since it is self-explanatory. This document is issued by different agencies in the different states and foreign countries. Nevertheless, it represents the official government statement by the proper government agency that a person having such a name was born on a particular date in a particular place, specific parentage. But obviously, the birth certificate is not intended to actually identify the person. So they're even saying that, right? The birth certificate is not intended. But nevertheless, the birth certificate has become commonly accepted, and you see it's in quotations, commonly accepted as identification. But it's not identification. It's commonly accepted because the people mind state of where they're at mentally. So transitioning to Section B, driver's license is not defined and 18 USC. So they're saying that's not even ID. Birth certificate, license is not ID. The original purpose of this government issued document was to state that a particular person was authorized to operate a vehicle upon the public roadways. It was not intended to establish one's identity. So it's two instruments so far that does not display identity. But because of the absence of a better document, however, the driver's license has eventually become commonly accepted as the nationality card. But clearly it's not. It's just been commonly accepted because people don't know better. All right. So once again, just review, keep these things in your mind. Once again, there's no pressure to even utilize a nationality card. It's, but if you are feeling compelled to do so, feeling confident to do so, just keep these law aspects in your mind. Also keep in mind Article 4, Section 1. Keep in mind Article 4, Section 1, dealing with full faith and credit. So once again, this is in the book. We're dealing with public acts. When we're dealing with records, judicial proceedings are case law. It doesn't matter what state that the case law was ruled, it's uniform. It's uniform all across the board. All right. So when we're utilizing documents such as, for instance, the Sundry Free Moors Act, which is a South Carolina House resolution, which most of us should know already what this is about. But once again, this is repetition. So remember, we just looked at public records from any state. So there's a South Carolina, there's a ruled upon that no law of the state in its construction or operation apply to Moors, and that persons who are subject to the Emperor of Morocco being free in this state are not triable by the law for the better ordering and governing of Negroes and slaves. So you declare your nationality as a Moor, penal code, statutes, ordinances do not apply unless they are in harmony with the Constitution and treaty. So this is a document we can use, the state records of South Carolina, House Representative. Let me see. Brother Taj Islam, how you doing, man? If you can hear me. Any questions on that? Oh, there you go. Brother Taj, can you hear me? Islam, I can't hear you. Do a little, oh, there you go. You're trying to connect. I see you trying to connect.
Islam, Mark.
Islam. So I'm gonna do like a slight review, just because you kind of came on a little late, but essentially, where you at? You at Virginia territory, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we at California territory, most of us here, and I was given a demonstration how to go through the path of least resistance. You're going to want to look through the penal codes in Virginia. We know they're not law, but it's stuff in there that'll take them to the common law treaty constitution. So in our case, it's a penal code called 834C. What does this penal code say? It states that in accordance with federal law, So when we're dealing with federal law, we're dealing with treaties and constitution. Every peace officer, upon arrest and booking for more than 2 hours of a foreign national, shall advise the foreign national that he shall have the right to communicate with an official from his consulate. Now, when we say in consulate, it's a group of consuls, or basically the temple, you know. Right. So that's one aspect of it. You have the right to get your consul on the phone to see if there has been a treaty violation. All right. So now you need to find something. You'll need to find something in Virginia or at Virginia, and they have it in every municipality. That says something similar. So for your case, you can look up what are foreign national protocols for Virginia, or what does the Virginia Penal Code say about foreign national protocols or whatever, right? Brother Benjamin Bay, Islam.
Islam, Morris.
All right, so I'm gonna run it back one more time since the brother came on. Just a little summary. So basically, brother Benjamin Bay, I'm pretty sure you read the book Morris Tactical and dealing with the Department of State Consular Notification and Access Manual, right? Pretty much everybody on here.
Islam.
Islam. So, of course, it's on the federal level, but I was letting everybody know, like wherever, like, so you're at Alabama, and the brother Taz, he's at Virginia, and the Empress on here is at Maryland, right? Everybody else at Cali, right? So, I gave an example out here how you can take stuff out their penal codes, even though we know it's not law, but they have remedy in there that it takes you to the federal level, and we can slow walk them to get to a jurisprudence stage dealing with the treaty and the Constitution. So once again, in Cali, it's called California Penal Code Section 834C, but it might be called something different at Virginia, Alabama, Maryland. So y'all will find that, and it is going to slow walk you to the blue manual I just showed you. All right. And essentially, it's letting you know, or letting them know, that any non-U.S. citizen or foreign national that gets, arrested, apprehended, pulled over, has the right to call their consul to see if there has been any violation of the treaty. Now, of course, if you're competent on the scene, then you can just go into your measure. But if you got, you feeling shaken up, or you get nervous at the scene, you know how I go, then you have the right to call your consul. All right. So that's just homework for everybody that's not in Cali to, once again, you can just Google what penal codes in Virginia or Alabama or Maryland correspond to the Consular Notification and Access Manual to deal with foreign nationals, et cetera, right? All right. And then that's going to take you to the manual, the main manual. And as we know, in the main manual, it says these legal obligations arise primarily from treaties, which form the supreme law of the land under Article 6 of the Constitution. And of course, from there, we know the floodgates is open, right? We already know what Article 6 says, right? Treaties are the supreme law of the land, any pre-existing engagements, right? So that's that. And then I was going through with the Empress earlier before y'all got on. Now you just need to know what the treaty says. Now you need to actually open up the treaty of our nation and the United States. You needed to know all the articles. I went through a couple earlier. I'm gonna just review again. Article 4 is what you'll use when you got flags on if you got a conveyance, throw a flag on there, hang a flag up somewhere. Because now you're invoking Article 4 of the treaty. Any signal or pass shall be given to all vessels belonging to both parties, by which they are known when they meet at sea, and the commander of a ship of the war shall have other ships under his convoy, the declaration of the commander. Now, when we saying vessels, don't think it's just at sea. We're talking about conveyance. So the declaration of the commander, which everybody here declare their nationality, right? The declaration of the commander shall be alone sufficient to exempt of them from any examination. So once again, if you got the flag on your conveyance, you got nationality card upon the scene, fez and turban on, speaking competently, you're invoking Article 4, right? Signal or pass will be the flag. Declaration of the commander, your competence on the scene, right? Once those things in play, there's no reason why they should be bothering you. So remember, we slow walked them. In our case, A34C, take you to the manual. We're dealing with how to deal with foreign nationals that may have treaties pursuant to Article 6. And now we're going to open up the treaty. And because now that's the measure. So if you go straight to the treaty, they might call you a sovereign citizen. If you just go straight to it. I'm just dealing with the times that we in. And that, we so scattered and stuff like that. So this is just a tactical way to slow walk them. And once you slow walk them, take them from their penal codes to a common law perspective, you're going to show them that you're competent. It's going to be another conversation if you're eloquently able to slow walk them. That pretty straightforward. Or any questions on that?
Yeah, I got questions. So at the beginning, I know I came in a little late or whatever. You're saying that I would have to go to the Virginia code, and then from there I will go to the Friendship of Treaty, right?
No, you'll go from there to this manual, to the blue one. You got more tactical, right?
Yeah, I have that.
So this is in the book.
Okay, so you go from the blue one. Okay.
Yeah, and then that blue one, because remember, this is instruction for federal, state, local law enforcement on how to deal with non-U.S. citizens and their right to consular assistance.
Okay.
Now, in here, it talks about the legal obligations arise primarily from treaties which form the supreme law of the land under Article 6. So that's your whole point of bringing this up, right? As a matter of fact, let's just go through a couple things in here. As a matter of fact, before I move on, remember we said competence, right? So look right here where it says the instructions and guidance contained in this manual must be followed by all federal, state, and local law officials, whether law enforcement, judicial, that means judge, or other insofar as it pertains to the foreign national subject to the official's authority or to matters within the official's competence. So that means if they are competent on this, and 9 times out of 10, they are not. So we're letting them know that they're supposed to be. They use the word competence, like, so some officers are competent on this, some are not. Why would they be putting this in here, right? It's subject to the official's authority or to matters of the official's competence. Now, remember, we're officials too. When we just floating through, we got a fez or turban on, we're in our official capacity. So we're going to be the official that's competent, even though they're supposed to be as well. But I'm just showing you that in here, the word competence that they're supposed to know. So let's scroll down. And if you got questions, just go ahead and let them fly. But once again, this is reinforcement because this information is in the book already. I'm trying to go to the Q&A section. Okay. All right. So what is a consular officer? All right. So for purposes of this manual, consular officer is an officer of a foreign government. They're saying accredited by the U.S. Department of State, but that doesn't apply to us. What applies to us is this part, regardless of whether the consular officer is assigned to the consular section of the embassy of Washington, D.C. It says regardless, so it doesn't have to be. As long as you're saying your nationality, that means you're not a U.S. citizen. So if you're not a U.S. citizen, then you're deemed in their stuff, you're a foreign national. So they have to abide by these protocols. It says, what is a consul? What is a consular official? The term consular officer, consular official, and consul mean the same thing, right? So a person that's astute at law pertaining to his nationality and political status and laws that are attached to that. How is a consular officer different from legal counsel? So now we're distinguishing a consul from bar member, basically, right? And then remember, this is a name manual. The term consul should not be confused with counsel, which means an attorney at law. So when we saying we counsel, we're not saying we're attorneys. We're not saying we're bar members. We're saying we're counsel. That's the language in the treaty. Let's go back to the treaty. So you can reinforcement. So all this can line up. Let's go back to the treaty. Let's see the language in the treaty, right? Does it say bar member? Let's see. I think it was Article 20, right? Article 20 and 21. See the language?
You said 20 and 21.
Yeah. So you see where the counsel assisting at the trial says counsel?
Mm-hmm.
That's in harmony. That's why this manual is distinguishing the difference. How is a consular officer, because that's the root word, counsel is a root word, counselor, officer different from legal counsel, which is a bar member. The term counsel should not be confused with counsel, right? Counsel should not be confused with counsel, which means attorney at law, which is a bar member, authorized to provide legal counsel and advice. A foreign consular officer is not authorized to practice law in the United States. And we're not trying to practice law because we're not US citizens. Right? Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Questions on that?
Okay.
So how are diplomatic officers different from consular officers? A diplomatic officer or diplomat is an officer of a foreign government assigned to an embassy to represent that government to the host country. Now, let me just keep reading. Many diplomatic officers are also authorized by their governments to perform consular functions and thus to act as a consular officer. As noted above, the purposes of this manual, the term consular officer includes diplomatic officer. And we just read, don't have to be assigned to an embassy in Washington, D.C., because over here it says, regardless of whether the consular officer is assigned to a consular section of an embassy in Washington, D.C., it don't even matter. But you do have people like, some Hindustanis and, Manchurian, Chinese, Japanese people. They have consulates over here and they are registered with Washington, D.C. Most of the Chinatown, Koreatown, Little Bangladesh, Little Tokyo, you'll see they have consulates here, but those consulates are registered with Washington, D.C. But by us being from the land, that's why it's, that's not for us. That's why I'm highlighting the fact regardless. I think I highlighted that in the book as well. Any questions on that?
Mm-mm.
Should I treat a diplomatic officer the same as a consular officer? Remember, these are questions for them. This is the stuff the sheriffs is getting trained on. This is stuff the municipal PD is getting trained on. This is the stuff that the municipal judges are getting trained on, right? So we're not even we just studying what they're supposed to be studying and letting them know, like, you're supposed to be studying this. This is in your manual. So for purpose of the issues discussed in the manual, you should treat a diplomatic officer and a consular officer similarly. Consular notification can be given to a diplomatic officer at an embassy if no consular officer is closer. A diplomatic officer should be permitted to conduct visits to detained foreign nationals and perform the other kinds of consular functions. So now we're talking about, you get apprehended, you got the right to somebody from your body to come and visit, right? Ambassador, etc. So this is why it's imperative to, know the civics responsibilities, because it's another level to the game right here. All right.
I had a question.
Uh-huh.
And when you go up some, right quick, if you don't mind.
where I was at.
This one right here in the queue, when it says, should I treat a diplomatic officer the same as a consular officer? I got a question. Is that saying like if somebody get locked up and they able, that's what you're saying, somebody get locked up, they able to be able to visit you or something? I'm confused. I was kind of confused on that. They was going in and out.
Yeah, exactly. So somebody from the, your temple, somebody from the body, your nation state, go in and do the measure. And that's why everybody should know about the writ of habeas corpus, because we'll go into that later right now. But essentially that's a writ on saying like why the body needs to be released, because there was no violation. So that's why it's important to know the treaty and what's in it, so you can distinguish the penal code from the de jure law, which is the Constitution and treaty. And of course, any case laws, like once again, the most famous one will be Sheriff versus Cullen, off the hip. There was no injured party, so it's no crime, right? Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did.
Okay. So that's another highlight. Who is a foreign national? For purposes of consular notification and the instructions of this manual, a foreign national is any person who is not a U.S. citizen. There are rare situations in which a person is neither a U.S. citizen or a foreign national, i.e. stateless. And we know, well, I don't know if everybody knows, but stateless is dealing with a person that, Black, Negro, colored, Hispanic, Latino, Puerto Rican, Indian. Because these people don't have mind frames as nationals. They don't know their nationality, culture, and they're operating with no culture, no organization, etc. So they're deemed stateless or wards of the state. All right. Is a foreign national the same as an alien? Yes, for the purpose of this manual. And remember, we're not aliens to the land. We're alien to the United States Corporation. Because we're Aboriginal and indigenous to the land. Question: are citizenship and nationality the same thing? Yes, for purposes of consular notification and access. So once again, you declare your nationality, you're saying you're a Moorish citizen, you're a Moroccan citizen, you're a Moorish American citizen, you're not a U.S. citizen, right? Your nationality determines your citizenship, right? Your nationality determines your citizenship. Pretty clear, right?
Yeah, really clear.
All right. Let's see. I'm trying to go through the bullet points. I think that was
so. Hold on. Right here, so you pretty much. Oh man, that make hella sense, man. Yeah, that's.
You got something?
No, I was just acknowledging what you were saying. That's all.
Yeah, man. Yeah, just get grounded. Get grounded in this, man. And then once again, you weren't here. Even though, like I say, it's in the book. Wait, where's CRM? Anyway, keep in mind, once again, we can use Sundry Free Moors Act as a precedent as well. That no law of the state in its construction or operation apply to them being Moors, and that persons who are subject to the Emperor of Morocco being free in this state are not triable by the laws for better ordering and governing the Negroes and other slaves. So keep that in mind, that, it's loosely called the Sundry Free Moors Act, but it's a House of Representatives, a House resolution of South Carolina. And remember, Article 4, Section 1, dealing with full faith and credit. is how you hook that. So once again, full faith and credit shall be given in each state to public acts, records, and judicial proceedings. So the South Carolina House Representative was a record or a public act from South Carolina stating that Moors are subject to essentially penal code statutes and ordinances. So you would use this to lay the foundation for all why you're using the Sundry Free Moors Act to substantiate your position on your status, as well as you'll use this to substantiate why you're using case law, because all case law, no matter where it was, has full faith and credit, right? Back to Scherer versus Cullen, right? What did that case law say? For there to be a crime, it must be an injured party, right?
Mm-hmm.
Keep these things in mind. So I said I was gonna go over what writ of habeas corpus, right? So let me just look up writ of habeas corpus. And matter of fact, let's go to Article 1, Section 10 before we go to that. So you can see that the writ of habeas corpus is in the Constitution. Everybody has the right to that. And then I'll go into the writ of habeas corpus. I don't know why I went to this. Oh, they got a better one. And there's a lot of stuff in Article 1, Section 10 as well, you know, dealing with what money is, a lot of stuff in there. No states can discuss treaties, so state courts can't even talk about treaty. That's a federal level. But let me get straight to what I was looking for here. Article 1, Section 10. So like I say, no state shall enter into treaty. So that's just on our side or their side. You know, once the whole nation is intact, elected a sultan or emperor, now we can enter, our sultan can negotiate treaties as an ambassador with other nations. But one temple out the nation or one clan out the nation or one subsidiary or political subdivision of a nation cannot enter into a treaty. So like Khalifa Society or Canaan Land or Rise of the Moors or anybody that has a body politic of Moors cannot enter into a treaty with Korea or whatever. And our nation needs to be fully, so all these states need to come together and form an alliance, elect a sultan, and then that sultan or our higher ups will do diplomatic negotiation with other nations. So same thing on their side. The quote unquote state of California, the state of Virginia, the corporate state of Alabama, etc., not enter into a treaty with any nation. The United States as a whole, and that's back to our treaty of peace and friendship. You'll see the United States, it's a treaty between the United States and Morocco, the empire, not Morocco and the state of California. It's not a treaty between, you know what I mean? And their elected officials or their ambassadors or their consuls were Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, Thomas Barclay, right? Etc. Enter into a treaty with our sultan. So now, Article, so no state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque or reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin as a tender and payments of debts, pass any bill of attainder. A bill of attainder is when you get a bill and it says report here because you've been found guilty or something. That's a bill of attainder, and that's a violation because you're not going through the due process of, like we went through before, of the 4th and 5th Amendment collectively, which states that once again, it needs to be an injured party. That injured party, a sworn affidavit, submits that saying you injured them. Then the grand jury indicts you based on what a human being said you did to them or their property. Then the grand jury issues out a warrant, and what's on that warrant? It's attached to not only the sworn statement of a human being that said you injured them on their property, but it gives you a chance to examine it and prepare your defense. So if any of those steps are missing, that's what you call a bill of attainder, and a bill of attainder is not law. It's actually called ex post facto law, and no ex post facto law, which is in Latin for law after the fact. So any law that came, any law after the fact of the treaty or the Constitution is not law, unless it's in harmony. So what else is a violation? Or law impairing the obligation on contracts. So once you enter into a contract and once you study contract law, if all the elements of contract law are on point, a couple of them is you can't enter into a contract with a minor. A couple of them is it must be a meeting of the minds. All parties must be aware of what's going on. And to study contract law, right? It's a bunch of elements of it. So once a contract or a trust or something like that is constructed, that's the law. There's no outside entity that can come in and be like, oh no, I'm impairing what that contract said. If it's tight, that's the law, right? So these are all the elements of Article 1, Section 10. And I actually lost my that was like some extras. My main point was to show you the rid of what was I trying to show? The rid of
habeas
habeas corpus. There we go.
habeas corpus.
But all that stuff was still necessary just to comprehend them. So
Nothing wrong with a little extra mile on the run. Yeah.
What is your point?
right, I lost my main point, but yeah, it was all relevant. Hold on, produce the body. Let me see. Trying to find it in the Constitution. Okay. So the writ of habeas corpus is the right bestowed in the U.S. Constitution to individuals to present evidence to a court showing that they have been wrongly or illegally imprisoned. All right, so that's the premise. And it's actually Article 1, Section 9, Clause 2. That's what I was looking for. All right, so that's the exact where you find it in the Constitution. It's Article 1, Section 9, Clause 2. The privilege of the habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless when in case of rebellion or invasion, the public safety may require it. So there's no suspending it. All right, so the reason I bring this up, because once again, this goes in harmony with when you're talking about your counsel, and like we just read, you pulling up to a Moore and they're incarcerated. You want to be competent on that writ on why the body needs to be released, because there has been no treaty violation. That's what I was getting at. Pretty straightforward. Questions on that?
I would have one. That's basically this what Sundry Free Moors were doing. Like their body were like captured by the African king, quote unquote. And so they were like, hey, we don't want to be adjudicated upon or given slave laws. So habeas corpus was them going to the treaty. Like we got a treaty with the emperor, not with what y'all trying to do.
Right.
So that habeas corpus would be the treaty. The same way ours would be, I was saying.
Right. Yeah, you so inside your writ, you would essentially put your bullet points, and one of the bullet points would be the treaty, right? You use, like I said, the manual. Yep. So I'm just going to try to see what it says. Let's just try Alabama. Let's see. Foreign national. Let me get this out the way. Okay, foreign national protocols and Alabama penal codes. Protocol. Let's just see what pops up. Okay, so this is just giving y'all an example. Y'all can narrow it down, but you see what pops up for Alabama, right? Alabama Code, Title 15, Chapter 9. Let's see what it says. Transfer of foreign national. President of Alabama. Okay, see, when a treaty is in effect between the United States and a foreign country that provides for the transfer of convicted offenders who are citizens or nationals of the foreign country, the governor of Alabama or the commissioner of the Departments of Corrections, if designated by the governor, may consent to the transfer of the convicted to the place or jurisdiction specified in the treaty. But this is, like I said, this is the first thing that popped up, but you can kind of narrow it down to something that's, let me see. So I get the point, right? Just, find something in y'all.
Basically using their own codes against them. They don't want to recognize what we have.
Right.
Another way to go through it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so you did the same thing for Virginia, same thing for Maryland, and just narrow it down. But like this is the one I found that was just straight, to the point for us out here. And you can also see, talks about the Vienna Convention on Consular Relations, which is also in play. Then it says California law enforcement agencies shall ensure that the policy or procedure and training manuals incorporate language based upon provisions of the treaty that set forth requirements for handling the arrest, booking, and detention. All right, so there you have it. We want to take them to an international platform, common law platform, etc. So I think that was pretty much what I wanted to share for today. Any open the floor for some questions? If any gray area,
like properly using the Department of Justice, they're the quote unquote government, what Benjamin Bay set up. Basically, when you say the federal part of it, like take it to the federal is basically what Benjamin Bay set up for all of us to use here, even though we were like conquer, and it wasn't in the Moorish hands, but we had the teachings of Noble Drew Ali to utilize and then being part and parcel of the said government.
right?
Properly using the platform instead of the circuit courts, you move it up to the proper court.
Right. And this is Department of Justice right here. And this is what I went over this with Universal Bay before everybody kind of got on here. But once again, this is in the book as well. This is a federal level, and this is for your nationality card. And once again, this is a repetition. So of course, 18 United States Code Section 1028 designates 3 non-federal identification documents and gives them preferred treatment. These 3 documents in absence of a nationality card. So if you don't have your nationality card, then the birth certificate, driver's license, personal ID. But if you do have it, of course, that trumps all of these, right? And then once again, when it breaks down a birth certificate, you go down, it says, obviously the birth certificate is not intended to actually identify a person. That's the bottom line. You go down, it says, nevertheless, the birth certificate has been quote unquote commonly accepted as identification. And we know that's because of people's competence or don't know better. That's why it's important, right? Because it goes to the driver's license. Once again, it was not intended to establish one's identity. So like the brother was saying, Department of Justice, the federal level, it talks about how driver's license is not ID. It was not intended to identify you. But because of the absence of a better document, however, the driver's license has eventually become quote unquote commonly accepted as national ID. But we know DMV, It's not a nationality card. It's two different things, right? So just to, show y'all that.
Try to scam you.
Yeah. Yeah, man. All right. So you can use this for your nationality card enforcement as well. And yeah, man. Has anybody utilized that and to utilize that nationality card? I've had to use it on a couple occasions.
Yeah, I just recently used my nationality card to get my vehicle that's outside right now. Yeah.
Oh,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
yeah, so it was a little bit of hassle at first, but I wound up getting it done, taking care of it, and they tried to hit me with the, oh, you need a social security number, oh, you need this, or you need that. Like they was trying to like do everything they can. Once they seen that, it's like they seen the ghost. So they were trying to do everything in their path to like, like, oh man, I never seen this before, man. I've never, this is new, man. This is the first time I ever seen, somebody actually utilize that this, da, da, da. And it's to the point where some of our people will come in there and they will stop talking and put me to the side because they didn't want them to know. So that let me know like they didn't want them to actually know what was going on. You feel me? So it's like that's why it's good to utilize the knowledge that and stay humble with it as well. Cause if you don't, they're gonna be looking at you like, oh, well, you call yourself this, you call yourself, you know what I mean? So
Right.
but yeah, to your answer, man, yeah, I definitely utilize that my nationality identification card.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I was on the phone with you, and that was a good demonstration just to have real live in the field, dealing with somebody. You know what I mean? Now you got experience under your belt. It's not like somebody can tell you something. Now you went through it. You
Yes, indeed.
And they was trying to put you to the ringer at first. They was even like, no, we can't do it. You got up and left. You got up and left. And they was like, no, come on back. Like,
yeah, they were trying to actually like cause they was telling me like the car was a certain price and I had called Mafiel and I was just like talking to him, and then I'm like, well, shoot, this ain't no need for me to be here. So as I walked out, he was like, hey man, oh, he's like, I'm not trying to, sell you no car or nothing, but can I talk to you right quick? I was like, what's going on? He was like, man, hey, I could do a deal with you, it could be for this price and you could take it to go and everything. So it's like they changed their mind. Like soon I left, they personality changed, everything changed. Like, man, I feel like I feel like on top of the world. Like what? Y'all just tried to, carry me. So
yeah, man.
Yeah, it was a very nice experience. So I tell everybody to get their nationality card, man, and make sure you guys study. But it is proof that you do not need no state license, no social security card, none of that. Like I actually, utilize my nationality and actually got my vehicle. So and it's literally sitting outside. I'm gonna just show y'all because I'm excited. Like I'm gonna just show y'all my little baby, I ain't even about to lie to you.
Yeah, man. But yeah, I use it for everything, man. My gym membership, anything I use, I try to just on Mafiel, man. Like let that be a track record. You can Google Mafiel's gonna be, a book gonna pop up. So you just have to be on the public record. That's public record.
My car right here. It's my baby right here.
A white joint, yeah.
Yeah, the silver wheel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, got my baby. This the people that was giving me problems at first. You know what I'm saying? So just want to let y'all know that it's a real statement,
Yeah.
It's learning properly using counsel as well.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
What'd you say, Benjamin?
I was like, Islam to properly using counsel. Like you say, call Brother Mafiel, having friction. Not saying he needed help, but, having more and more on hand, to speak to the opposite side to help things get done, you know what I mean? So just having a positive more there, shows unity as well. And, if you, the prophet brought, it'll tear you up or tore them up. You're like, don't worry about it. I'm out of here. They're like, wait, hold on. That's also resources you needed.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
That's right.
it's loud. But yeah, that's all I have for today, man. Anybody else got any thoughts or whatnot? Put them on the floor, and if not, we'll close out in prayer. Matter of fact, where's the thing? Oh, you know what? No, we actually didn't read the Quran. I'm just gonna read this chapter, and we'll close out after. It's chapter 14 of the Holy Quran. John the Harbinger returns to Hebron, lives as a hermit in the wild. You know what? Read that last week. So we are on chapter 15, actually. Yeshua goes to the wilderness for self-examination, where he remains 40 days, is subject to 3 temptations. He overcomes, returns to the camp of John, and begins teaching. The Harbinger had paved the way. The Logos had been introduced to men of love, made manifest, and he must now begin his divine ministry. And he went forth into the wilderness to be alone with Allah, that he might look into his inner heart and note its strength and worthiness. And with himself, he talked. He said, my lower self is strong. By many ties, I am bound down to carnal life. Have I the strength to overcome and give my life a willing sacrifice for men? When I shall stand before the face of men and they demand a proof of my messiahship, what will I say? And then the tempter came and said, if you be son of Allah, command those stones to turn into bread. And Yeshua said, who is it that demands a test? It is no sign that one is son of Allah because he does a miracle. The devils can do mighty things. Did not the Gentile magicians do great things before the Pharaoh? My words and deeds and all the walks of life shall be the proof of my messiahship. And then the tempter said, if you will go into Jerusalem and, and from the temple pinnacle cast down yourself to earth, the people will believe that you are the Messiah sent from Allah. This you can surely do. For did not David say he gives his angels charge concerning you? And with their will, they uphold lest you should fall. And Yeshua said, I may not tempt the Lord, my God Allah. And then the tempter said, look forth upon the world. Behold, its honors and its fame. Behold, its pleasures and its wealth. If you will give your life for these, they shall be yours. But Yeshua said, away from me, all tempting thoughts. My heart is fixed. I spurn this carnal self with all its vain ambition and its pride. For 40 days did Yeshua wrestle with his carnal self. His higher self prevailed, and then was hungry. But his friends have found him, and they ministered to him. Then Yeshua left the wilderness, and in the consciousness of holy breath or truth, he came into the camps of John and taught. Right, so being tested, battle tested, internally tested, impulsively tested, right? Everything's a test. And you don't need to do no miracles. You don't need to float on water. You don't need to be doing all these things to show that you, in this case, a Messiah. It's all about the deeds, learning from mistakes, graduating, and learning and evolving, man, in a humanitarian form, right? Any questions on this chapter? Or any statements on this chapter before we?
I like that story. It's deep, and it has a lot of metaphors in there.
Self-examination. That's the key for this chapter, right? Self-examination.
remind me is like someone like if you're more than wow this, you know, kind of like if you're the Messiah, then you know make the stone bread. It's like it don't really work like that, you know.
Exactly.
But what I do makes me immortal. Like my actions, me just coming out and doing sigils and throwing sand in the air and all that. It's like, it's like no, I'm not. That's not what it is. You know?
Right.
Anybody can do that, you know. But you know, that's what I thought about as well. It's like, oh, you were more than do a trick, or it's like, you know, the law stuff. Give me a law, you know, give some jurisprudence. I mean, good, but you know,
It's live, man. Just keep it simple, man. Simple and consistent. All right, so I'm just gonna close out in prayer here. And yeah. Oh, we got something in the chat. Let's see.
Allah.
Oh, we got something in the chat from Mataz Amadi. Oh, yeah. Right. He put the prayer in the chat. Yeah, we got it right here too. All right. Allah,
Well,
Father of the universe,
Father of the universe,
Father of love,
Father of love,
truth,
True.
freedom and justice.
freedom and justice.
Allah is my protector,
Allah is
my guide,
my God
salvation,
and my
Salvation.
salvation,
night and by day,
by night and by
Night and by
day,
day.
to his holy prophet,
through his holy prophet,
Noble Jew Ali.
Noble Jew Ali.
Amen.
Amen.
Islam, boys.
Islam.
Of course.
To y'all day, and I'll see y'all Wednesday. Islam.
So.
Well,